Hello, this is Paul Garratt-Proctor, and this is one of a few videos that's going to be different to ones that you may have already seen from me so far. And this is on the very well-known subject, arguably the legend of the Amityville horror. This is a subject that's always been very close to my heart, from a very young age, and it's something that I've followed and studied, most of my life, really. And it led me to producing a book of my own, which I am going to show you right now. Here it is. It is called Pure Observation, a fairer view of the Amityville legend by Paul Garratt-Proctor. Now, this book is available on Amazon. It's been out just a little over a year so far. And I call this kind of a case study of the real stories and the allegedly real stories from the mid-70s at the famous Dutch colonial property in Amityville, New York. Now, the first thing I always say is I'm not an expert because I don't actually believe there are any experts when it comes to this subject. We can only draw our own conclusions. We can only study, research, and work with what resonates with us personally. I'm a big believer in that. And so I don't feel it's my place or anyone's place to be telling anyone or preaching to anyone what's what. We're not in a position to do that. We can discuss our theories, we can discuss our opinions and our own personal beliefs, but none of us are in a position to make any great harsh judgments. And that's what this book is really about. It's about encouraging, a fairer, more open-minded kind of view of the whole thing, really, that takes us away from, the very, shall we say, shallow, superficial kind of things that, are pretty rife out there. They just are, So what my book doesn't do, and what I'm not going to do right now in this video, is start talking about all the general, or should we say the very well-known information from the mid-70s. Let's just quickly say that you're probably here because you know about a family that were murdered in that house, and that you would know that another family moved in a year later and felt so uncomfortable, so plagued by what is said to be paranormal activity that they couldn't stay there, and they left there within less than a calendar month. Yeah, so that's pretty much the basis of the whole thing. I don't want to go into all that because I say you either know it or there's plenty of the kind of forums, videos, etc. that go through all that information. We don't need to go through it all over again. But as I say, my perspective of the whole thing is that we have to take away the original book, the original Amityville horror book written by Jay Anson, and we certainly need to take away any of the films, even the very original one starring James Brolin and Margot Kidder and Rod Steiger. Although that's my favourite of all time, we cannot possibly take that as anything close to the truth, because that was something that was made for entertainment. It was a work of Hollywood. It wasn't really even attempting to give us a true story of any kind. So we need to put that aside. Then with the book, we need to put a lot of that aside as well and realise that one of the biggest mistakes ever made with that book was to put it out as a true story. It would have been far fairer and probably more realistic. It would have saved a lot of hassle, quite possibly, if that book had been released as based on true accounts or based on real life accounts. Then we could have maybe saved a lot of controversy. Yeah. But to dig into the story, this is something that we can never ever do in a short time. You can't do it overnight. There's no quick fix courses, no crash courses to learn about a subject like this. I mean, we're talking something that still fascinates many, many people, millions of people all over the world, and has done for the best part of 50 years. So we're not talking something you can learn in 5 minutes. What we tend to have is a mountain of confusion that's built up over the years, with the real truth buried somewhere underneath it all, that people like myself will always be, digging and, looking for that truth, kind of trying to piece things together and try and find something that, it just kind of resonates. Yeah, there is, oh, okay, here's something new that I didn't know before. Yeah, this kind of adds up to that, etc., etc. Now, me personally, I'm going to be very honest. There's no point denying it. I am very much a believer that the Lutz family in 1975 genuinely had a terrifying experience in that house. I do believe that they did. I don't claim to know exactly what happened, though, because I wasn't there. But what I do say is that when looked at properly and more carefully, and when, like I say, well, let's take out Hollywood, let's take away the novel, and let's kind of look at the information that we get directly from the family themselves in interviews, both recorded and written, which we can find, we're still left with a story, or at least, shall we say, a number of accounts that most people would have found pretty chilling and unnerving, and wouldn't have found it very comfortable to have stayed in an environment like that. So we're taking out the drama and, the jump scares and everything that Hollywood gave us. Of course we are. But we're ending up with something that is, to my mind, quite plausible, quite credible. And this is why one of my, passions is to say that I don't feel it was a hoax, like many people want to angrily call it that. They want to just really stamp on it, and they get very personal and get very angry about it as though it's affecting them in some way. When I'll be the first one to say, yeah, maybe, that something was misunderstood. Maybe it was something mistaken for supernatural paranormal activity, but maybe we could still be looking at something that did genuinely scare them, which would amount to something that was real, at least as far as what they understood. So that's why I like to call myself a fairer viewer of the whole thing. So I don't try to sell people ghost stories, and demons and, things that go bump in the night for the sheer sake of it, But what I do like to do is point out the fairer points that, do actually remain quite credible when looked at in detail. I do find that a lot of people don't look at this subject very fairly. They'll work from very superficial and shallow information, very opinionated, very one-sided things. And some of it, even stems from those with personal gripes and vendettas, that needs to be looked at very carefully before we're just saying, oh yeah, it was all rubbish, it was all a hoax because that person said so. Well, let's not stop there. Let's look at it in a bit more detail. Yeah? So anyway, this is largely what my book is about. Pure observation, fair review of the Amityville legend. And as I said, this is available on Amazon. It's just over a year old now, and I feel that there's going to be room for another one before too long. And there's things in here that I wrote and would maybe change slightly now, or I would add more to it, because I never stop learning. And the people who look at this subject correctly never stop learning. And we never feel that we've got all the answers. So there's the difference between people who are looking at this subject, in detail, and those who feel that they can just write it off and feel that they know it all, based on one or two biased versions and opinions and views here and there. Yeah, so there's more to come. This is the first of a few. I will be back with you shortly.